Hello, and what I'm going to do today in this 1 hour of video I'm going to cover topmost MySQL interview questions with answers along with the demonstration. Guys, this video will be the part 1 video and there will be part 2 and part 3 video which I'm going to launch in coming up days. And in this part 1 video we are going to cover the following 20 questions as you can see on the screen, that is, explain normalization and denormalization, explain first normal form, second normal form and third normal form, primary key versus foreign key, primary key versus candidate key versus unique key, what is trigger, how you can create a trigger in MySQL, explain transaction and how to implement transaction in MySQL, what is an index, how you can create an index in MySQL, what is a view, how you can create and drop a view in MySQL, explain inner join, left join, right join, cross join, and also MySQL union versus union all, and many other questions. Yes, we are going to see in this 1 hour of this video. Now, before we start, if we look at the MySQL, then MySQL has the highest number of job opportunities in the market. So let me just show you India's one of the top job portals. So there you go. Here you can see that I have searched for MySQL and MySQL jobs are showing 36,000. And now let's also search for other databases like SQL Server. Again a popular database system. So there you go. Here you can see that for SQL Server it is 27,000. Let's also search for Oracle now. So there you go. So here we go, 25,000 only. So as you can see that with this chart it is concluded that MySQL has the highest number of job opportunities in the market. And secondly, I myself working as a MySQL DBA expert with 15 plus years of experience, and I have taken so many interviews and gave many interviews in my career, and truly saying with my heart, I have never been a jobless person in my career. Thanks to MySQL for giving me a complete bread and butter in my life. So guys, whether you are at the fresher level or at advanced level, I can guarantee you that if you go through this 1 hour of this video properly, I am 100% sure that 50 to 70% of questions will come from this list only, because these questions are suitable for every candidate looking for a job in a database space. So guys, before again we start with our question number 1, there is a small gift for you. Yes, I want to gift you my complete MySQL interview question ebook for free. Now, to get this ebook, what you need to do? You need to share this YouTube video anywhere on your social accounts like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and send us a screenshot on this email ID as you can see, questpond@questpond.com. So once you send us a screenshot, then we will send you the ebook on your email ID. And also do visit our website, that is www.questpond.com, where we have lots of step-by-step and interview preparation videos on SQL Server, PHP, MSBI, MySQL, ASP.NET, .NET Core, C#, and many more as you can see here. Okay, so with that, let's start answering with our question number 1. What is normalization and denormalization? Now, as I am answering this question, let me also talk about the important tips from an interview perspective. I always tell my students to follow the 3 P's rule. That is, always answer to the point. First P. Answering to the point, you are showing that your fundamentals are crystal clear. Always go prepared. This is the most important point. Prepared. Second P. No matter you are a hero of your company, you have performed tuned many complex databases, but cracking an interview is a different ball game where you have to speak right technical vocabularies with a right answer. So, always remember a prepared developer has a more chances of getting success than an unprepared superhero. Preparation is a key to success. Preparation will help you to answer to the point. First P. So this is second P. Now let's talk about the third P. Be practical. Practical. Third P. Always speak your answer with some practical example. This will really create a great impact in an interviewer's mind that you are a strong candidate for this MySQL post job. Now, let's come back to the question. Explain normalization and denormalization. So let's start with the normalization first. Normalization is a database design technique to remove the redundant data and eliminates the undesirable characteristics like insertion, update and deletion anomalies. Yes, we have the types of normal forms like first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, Boyce code normal form and so on. And these normal forms are used to eliminate or reduce the redundancy in the database table. Normalization rule says divide the larger table into the smaller tables or into the logical tables and link them using the relationship joins. Now for example, here we have a property table. You can see that with a property ID as a primary key, then we have property name, then we have property location. If you closely look at the property location, then we have a redundant data over here. You can see that we have India, then we have again India but the different spelling, again we have India but the different spelling over here. Same with the Australia, you can see that. Now how do we remove this type of redundancy? How do we remove this type of redundant data? Simply what we have to do, we have to follow the normalization rules. What does the normalization rule says? Split the table into the logical table. Now let's see how do we split this table. So for that, let me just go to the phpMyAdmin. So here you can see that here I have created a separate table for the location, as you can see that with the ID with the location, right? So here I have given the two records as one for India, two for Australia, and then I have created a reference foreign key ID into the property listing table. As you can see that here I have given the foreign key IDs. You can see that directly. That is one for India, two for Australia, again India, again Australia, then again India. So what we did here, instead of property location, I have just replaced this column with the location ID as a foreign key. So let me just do that over here, location ID. There you go. So one for India, two for Australia, India, Australia, then again India. That's it. So this is what I did. So this is how we have removed the redundancy from the table by applying the normalization rules. Now let's go and talk about the denormalization. When there is a question on normalization, there are 60 to 70% chances that your interviewer can ask you about the denormalization also. So let's talk about denormalization. Denormalization is a database design technique which focuses on improving the search performance. There in the normalization we were focusing on insert, update, delete. Here we are focusing on search performance. So denormalization improves the search performance. Here we go opposite of normalization. That is, here we merges the two tables. There in the normalization we split the two tables, but here we merges the two table in order to reduce the number of joins, which helps in speeding up the performance. Yes, in simple words, fetching the queries can be simpler in the denormalization because we need to look into the fewer tables. That's what about denormalization. Now guys, let's move on to the next question. Explain first normal form, second normal form and third normal form. Guys, this is very important interview question, but for an interviewer it is a very basic question. So if you fail to answer this question, then it will send a very wrong message to an interviewer, and thus he will make you fail to qualify for a next round. So I request you always that go prepared for an interview. Preparation is a key to success. That's what I require from you. Go prepared. Now let's talk about the first normal form, second normal form and third normal form. So guys, if you get this question, then always start with the normalization definition, which we have just seen in our previous question. So try to elaborate that definition first, then after that you can start with the types of normalization. That is, so let me write over here, that is first normal form, and then the second normal form and the third normal form. Okay. So if our table is not in a first normal form, then we can have insert, update, delete anomalies. Like to access any record, then we need to write the complex SQL query using the substring or something other function. So for example, let me just show you over here. Here you can see that we have the addresses, that is Goregaon, Mulund, then we have the comma Andheri. Now if I want to access the address number 2, then for that also I need to write the complex select statement using some substring function. And even if I want to update the address number 2 or address number 3, then again I need to write some complex SQL statement. So if you see here, we have insert, update, delete anomalies. Now to avoid this, we need to structurize our table into the first normal form as per the first normal form. That's what the benefit of having the normalized structure in a table. Now, if a table to be in a first normal form, then what are the criteria? So let me write over here. The first criteria is that every table must have a primary key. Second criteria, every column must have atomic value. So let me write over here atomic value. Third criteria, every table must not have repeating group. So yes, repeating group. So what was the criteria? Every table should have primary key, then every column must have atomic value, every table must not have any repeating group problem. So for example, let's go here again, and here you can see that I have a table here. So our first rule says that every table must have the primary key. That's what I did here. You can see that I have added the primary key. Now every table must have the atomic value. So what I will do, so let me just copy this. So there you go, let me copy it and paste it. And here what I will do, let me just say address 1. So this is what I am fixing up the problem for now, to have the atomic value in a column. So what I will do, let me just remove it. There you go. Now what we did here, in order to have the atomic value, what we did, we have separated this comma separated values into the different columns, right? Now as you can see that atomic value problem has been fixed, means we have achieved the primary key, we have achieved the atomic value, but there is a problem. What is the problem? Now we have created the repeating group problem, that is address 1, address 2, address 3. Again there is a repeating group problem, means if there is a repeating group problem, means that our table is not in a first normal form. So what we have to do, we have to remove this repeating group problem. So how do we remove it? Simple. What does normalization rule says? Split up the table into the logical tables. So for now what I will do, let me create one more table over here saying that addresses table. So here I will create addresses table addresses. So here I will have address ID and then addresses. So there you go. I will say 1, 2, 3. So here it will be like Goregaon. Now simply what I can do here, I can, instead of this having this repeating group problem, what I will do, let me delete this and here I will say address ID. as a foreign key ID. So here I will write, let's say, 1 for Goregaon, 2 for Mulund, 3 for Andheri, again 1 for Goregaon, 2 for Mulund. Again, if you see here, we have achieved our primary key. We have achieved our normalized structure here, that is having the atomic value in a table and removing the repeating group problem. But our purpose has not been solved over here, means a single customer is having the multiple addresses like this, means a Shiv is having 3 addresses, that is Goregaon, Mulund, Andheri. Now to solve that problem, again we need to split our table into the logical table so that we get this result. So for that, again let me create one more table over here saying that customer addresses. So here it will be like customer address ID, and here it will be customer ID, and it will be address ID. So here it will be like 1, 2, 3. For now I am going to add addresses for 1001. So 1001. Similarly we can add addresses for 1002, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. There you go. You can see that Shiv, that is 1001, having multiple addresses. So like this we have splitted our table. Now from here we have to remove this column. So there you go. That's it. We are done. So this table is having a customer ID, customer name. Addresses table is having addresses ID, addresses name. Okay, and we have one more table called customer addresses, where we have customer ID as a foreign key and addresses ID as a foreign key. So this is how we have achieved our first normal form structure here, having the primary key, having the atomic value, removing the repeating group problem. Okay. Now let's talk about the second normal form. So what does the second normal form rule says? Achieve the first normal form first, and then after that remove the partial dependency from the table. So what does the partial dependency means? Here we want that all the non-key columns must be fully dependent on the primary key. It should not be partially dependent. So here we should remove the partial dependency. Let me write it over here. Remove partial dependency. So for example, let's see the example here. Now here you can see that we have a table over here where we have a column like patient ID with the patient name. Then we have doctor ID with the doctor name and doctor specialization. Here you can see that the patient name is fully dependent on the patient ID. And here the doctor name and the doctor specialization is fully dependent on the doctor ID, and the doctor name and the doctor specialization is partially dependent on the patient ID. Even the patient name is partially dependent on the doctor ID. So this type of dependency we have to remove it, then only we can achieve the second normal form. So this is the partial dependency problem which we have to remove it. So how to remove it? So for that, just copy this table and let's split this table into the separate table. There you go. That's it. Now let me just remove this. There you go. We are done. So it means that we have a patient table separately where we have a patient ID as a primary key and the patient name as a column name. And this patient name column is fully dependent on the patient ID. And similarly we have the doctor ID as a primary key and the doctor name and the doctor specialization. Both these columns are fully dependent on the doctor ID primary key. So hence we have removed the partial dependency problem. So it means that we have achieved the first normal form and then we have removed the partial dependency problem. So this means that we have achieved the second normal form also. Now it's time to achieve the third normal form. So what does the third normal form rule says? Achieve the first normal form first, second normal form, then you can go and achieve the third normal form. But here we have to remove the transient dependency. So let's remove it. So we have to remove the transient dependency. Yes. If we remove the transient dependency from the table, then only we can achieve the third normal form. Then only we can say that A table is in a third normal form. Okay. So let's see an example now. So here we have a table here that you can see that we have a doctor ID with a doctor name, doctor specialization, location, country. Okay, here the doctor ID is a primary key. Now if you see closely here, this country column is dependent on the location, and this location column is dependent on the doctor name and the doctor ID. Okay, so it means that doctor name is dependent on the location, and depending on the location this country changes. So it means that we have transient dependency problem, because here the country column is not fully dependent on this doctor ID, but it is totally dependent on the location. So depending on the location this country changes. So this is called as transient dependency, means C is dependent on B and B is dependent on A. Hence A is dependent on C indirectly. Okay, so let me write over here. You can see that. So it means that A, B, C. So C is dependent on B, B is dependent on A. Hence we are proving that A is dependent on C. That's what here it is happening. That is, country is a C column, location is a B column, and then the doctor ID or the doctor name is a A column. So C is dependent on B, B is dependent on A. Hence we are proving that A is dependent on C. Hence this type of dependency is known as transient dependency. Now we have to remove this type of dependency from the table. Then only we can able to achieve the third normal form. So how to remove this type of dependency? So for that what we have to do, again we have to split up the table. So how to do that? So for that let me just copy this. Here I will say country ID. That's it. Let me copy it. There you go. And then for the location I will create a separate table again. So for that let me copy this, and here I am going to put the location ID as a primary key 1, 2, 3, and here again I am going to put the foreign key as a country ID. So there you go, country ID as a foreign key in the location table. Okay, so there you go, 2, 1. That's it. Let me just structurize this. So there you go, you can see that we have splitted this table. Now here how to fix it? So here instead of location and country, what I will do, let me delete this. Let me make this as location ID FK. Okay, so here let me put 1, 2, 3. That's it. So this is how we have removed the transient dependency problem. So you can see that we have added the location ID as a foreign key into this doctors table, where this location ID is having the country ID as a foreign key. You can see that a location table is having the country ID as a foreign key, right? So this is how we have removed the transient dependency problem. So it means that we have achieved the third normal form. So this is all about the first normal form, second normal form, and third normal form. Now let's move on to the next question. Explain primary key and a foreign key. Again, a very important interview question. Now let's understand how to answer this question. And this answer we are going to understand with the differences. That is the differences between the primary key and the foreign key. Primary key focuses on the uniqueness in the table. It helps us to find out the record in the table. So for example, in a table, if you want to find out any record, if you want to search any record, then definitely a primary key is must. Remember guys, a primary key cannot be a non-key column. It has to be the integer value only, and this primary key cannot be null and it cannot be duplicate. Hence it is very important column in a table. Now let's talk about the foreign key also. So if you see here, foreign key is a column in the table that is a primary key in the another table. So let me explain you about this. So if you see that we have created the foreign key, but this foreign key is a primary key for another table, that is this country table. You can see that here it is a primary key, that is the country ID. Here it is a primary key, but for the property listing table it is the foreign key. That's what the definition means. Okay, definitely for a foreign key has to be the integer only, because it is a primary key for another table. Okay, but here a foreign key can be null. Okay, unlike the primary key, because the primary key cannot be null, but here the foreign key can be null. Yes, that's what this definition means. You can see that. Okay, we can have multiple foreign keys, but for the same table we cannot have a same foreign key multiple times repeated here. But yes, we can have another foreign key over here. For example, we can have like order ID as a foreign key, we can have a location ID as a foreign key, we can have a country ID as a foreign key, we can have a account ID as a foreign key. But for this country ID foreign key cannot be repeated in the same table. Okay, so that's what this definition means. We can have a multiple foreign key, but a table has to be the different. Okay, now to identify the any record, a primary key is must. Every table must have the primary key. That's what the first normal form rules also says, that is every table must have the primary key. It is okay if you don't have the foreign key in a table, but a primary key is must. A foreign key is a field in the table that is a primary key in the another table, and it is not compulsory to have in every table. That's what I have just told you. It is not compulsory to have a foreign key in a table, but it is very compulsory to have a primary key in a table to satisfy the first normal form rule also. Okay, so hey guys, this is what the differences between the primary key and the foreign key. Now let's go talk about the next question, that is the primary key versus the candidate key versus the unique key. Now we have just spoken about the primary key in our previous question. Now here we are going to focus more on the candidate key and the unique key. So as we know that primary key focuses on uniqueness in the table, they cannot be null, it has to be the integer data type only. Similarly, we have the candidate keys which focuses on uniqueness in the table, but they come with a group of multiple keys or multiple columns that uniquely identifies in the table. They also cannot be null. Both the integer and the string value data type can be possible in the candidate key, and from this group of list only we have to select the primary key. Yes, because even the candidate keys focuses on uniqueness in the table. If we have a unique column with the integer data type, then that column can become a primary key automatically. Yes, so in a table we can have multiple candidate keys, but we have to have only one primary key. Similarly, let's talk about the unique key also. Unique key also focuses on uniqueness in the table. They also offer the single key or a group of multiple keys that uniquely identifies the rows in the table. Here the unique keys can be null. Yes, guys, this is the exact difference between the primary key, the candidate key and the unique key. If you see here, primary keys cannot be null, even the candidate keys cannot be null, but here the unique keys can be null, and it can have both data types, that is integer as well as string data type. Even the candidate keys cannot be null, but it can have both data types, that is the integer as well as string. Here the primary keys cannot be null, but it has to have an integer data type only. This is the only exact difference between the primary key, the candidate key and the unique key. Rest all are similar only. All three keys focuses on uniqueness in the table. They help us to find the record properly in the table. Apart from these differences, I don't find any differences. Yes, we can have only one primary key, we can have multiple candidate keys, we can have multiple unique keys, but the main exact difference is that a primary key cannot be null, unique key can be null, and it can have both data types, that is string as well as integer. Even the candidate keys cannot be null, it can have both integer as well as string data types. primary key is formed from the candidate key list only. When you have bunch of candidate keys, then from that list only we can have one primary key, but it has to have an integer data type only. So hey guys, this is what the exact differences between the primary key, candidate key and the unique key. Now hey guys, let's move on to the next question. What are triggers and how to create a trigger in a MySQL? Guys, again this is a very important interview question, so go prepared well for this question also. Now let's understand how to answer this question. A trigger is a special type of MySQL object or a type of stored procedure logics which gets triggers automatically when an event occurs. An event like insert, update, delete occurs on a table. This is very similar like a JavaScript events. So if you guys came across JavaScript events, then you must be knowing that we have events in the JavaScripts like on click event, we have on mouse over event, we have on key press event and many more so on. So similarly you can write your logic in the triggers, that is if you want to have some kind of a event which can occur before or after the insert happens or after the update or before the update. Similarly you can have it for a delete, before delete or after delete and so on. So what is the benefit of having the trigger? The benefit is that if you want to track or if you want to log some information when an insert, update, delete occurs, then yes, you can create a trigger and you can use the trigger for tracking, for logging the information. So this is the benefit of having the trigger. Now let's understand how to create a trigger in MySQL. So what type of trigger I am going to create, let me just explain you here first. So as you can see that we have a table here called location where we have the columns like a location and the date and time, then we have ID as a primary key. Now what I want that whenever a new record gets inserted into this table, I want to log the date and time of that particular inserted data. So for that I want to use a trigger to log this information. So for that I'm going to write a trigger over here. So let me just write over here create trigger. So there you go, with the name as TRINS underscore location. So this is my trigger name. So I want to fire a trigger before the insert. So there you go, before insert on location table. There you go. So here I want to do it for each row. So here I'm going to set as new dot date. Let me just check the column name, date time. So there you go, date time is equal to now. That's it. And before I run this trigger, so let me also drop it if exists. So here I will say drop trigger if exists TRINS location semicolon. That's it, we are done now. Let me run this. So there you go, you can see that we have successfully created the trigger. Now what I will do, let me go here and let me do a insert here. So here I'm going to write as Nepal as my location and let me say go. So there you go, you can see that a new record has been added. Now what I will do, let me say browse. So there you go, you can see that a date and time has been added over here. So now it is showing only the date because our structure data type is having the date only here. Okay, so this is how you have to create the trigger in MySQL. I hope you understand this part. Now hey guys, let's move on to the next question. What is transaction and how to implement transaction in MySQL? A very important interview question. No matter you are an experienced guy or a fresher guy, you can expect this question anytime on your table. So go prepared well for this question. Now let's understand how to present this question in an interview. So in a single line, if you want to understand about the transaction, if you want to explain about the transaction to an interviewer, then it should be something like this. Transaction help us to execute the group of statements like select, insert, update, delete as one logical unit that can be committed on successful or roll back if any error occurs. Yes. So here you can see that I have started the transaction here. So this is how you have to write the transaction in MySQL. So start with the transaction, and here we have written the group of statements. That is, here for now to understand, I have written the insert statement as a group of statement. You can see that here you can write the select statement also with the insert statement. Here you can also write the update statement. Here you can also write the delete statement. Yes, for now I have written the insert statement. You can see that 3 insert statements. Once you have written the group of statements, then after that either you can write the commit over here or you can write the rollback. So if the auto commit has been enabled in the MySQL, then don't need to write the commit over here, but yes, you have to write the rollback over here. Yes. Now this complete transaction you can write in a store procedure also, in a try catch block also. So in a try block you can write the transaction, you can start the transaction, you can commit it, and in the catch block if any error occurs you can roll back that entire transaction. So this entire transaction works like a single logical unit. So either all the statements has to be executed successfully. If any one of the statement fails here, then entire transaction will be rolled back automatically. Means suppose if this insert statement executes successfully and this also executes successfully, and somehow due to some mistake if this insert statement fails, then my entire transaction will fail here, because transaction runs as a single logical unit. All the statements in a transaction should execute successfully or either will be rolled back automatically. So if all the statements execute successfully, then only the entire transaction executes successfully. If any one fails, then entire transaction will fails. So if you have written the rollback, then if whatever the changes has been done, it will be rolled back automatically. Okay. So this is all about the transaction in MySQL. So this is how you have to explain this question. I hope you understand this part. Now let's move on to the next question. What is an index? How can index be declared in MySQL? A very important interview question. So now let's understand how to answer this question. An index in MySQL helps to improve the speed of operation in a table. So what do you mean by that? So for example, consider any reading book or a school textbook. Every book have an index page at the start with the page number, so that reader can quickly navigate to that particular chapter of page without scanning a whole book. Similarly, MySQL uses the indexes to quickly find the rows with a specific column values. Without an index, MySQL must scan the whole table to locate the relevant rows for a given query. Yes. Kindly note, for primary keys, no need to create index. Automatically, indexes are declared for primary keys. Okay. Now let's understand how to create an index in MySQL. So for that, we have to write a query over here. So let's understand that. So for that, I will use create index name. So any index name you can give here. I will say INS, and here on which table you want. I want a product table over here. So I will write product. So which column I need to add the indexes? So the columns which are frequently used for the retrieval of data, that columns only I need to add over here. Don't add any other columns. Okay, so here I will use product name because I use product name for searching of the data here. So I will say product name. That's it. semicolon, and I will say go. So there you go, you can see that my index has been generated over here. So let's find out here. So there you go, you can see that index has been generated over here successfully. Now to drop this index, what we have to do, we can write again a query over here. So let's go here, I will say drop index with the index name ins on product. Okay, so there you go, we are done. Let's run this query, and that's it, we are done. Okay, as you can see that here, right? There is one more way from which you can create the index in phpMyAdmin. So you can go to this more option, and here you can see that index option is over here. Just click on this index option. Automatically an index will be created for this column name, product name. Okay, so hey guys, this is all about in this question. I hope you understand this question. Now let's move on to the next question. What is the view in MySQL, and how you can create or drop a view in MySQL? A very important interview question. So let's understand how to answer this question. In one liner, to answer this question, the database views are virtual tables that are generated by the query output. Yes, the output which is generated by the joins or a complex query or a simple query. For that output, we can give a virtual table name called a view. Yes. Now, for example, here you can see that here we have a table called a property listing table. Here we have table called location table. Now let me run a SQL join query, that is the inner join query I'm going to run for this table, that is a property listing table, and for the location table. So let me run the inner join query here now. So there you go. Now let me copy paste this. So there you go, you can see that I am inner joining the two tables here, that is a property listing and the location here on the location ID. You can see that. Now let me execute this query. So there you go, you can see that the output has been generated here. Now for this output generated table, I can give a virtual table name as a view here. So for that, what I will do, let me go here again, and here now I'm going to create a view name here. So here I will say create view with the view name as property list. So there you go. Okay, as now this query. So there you go, we are done now. So let me say go here. So this is how you have to create the view in MySQL. So let me say go here. So there you go, you can see on my left hand side a view has been generated over here. In order to access this view, you have to simply go here and write select star from property list. That's it. I will remove this. So there you go, we are done now. Let me say go. So you can see the output over here, right? So this is how you have to create the view in a MySQL. Now let's understand how to drop a view in MySQL. So let's go here to the SQL tab. So here I will say drop view and the view name. That's it. Semicolon, and that's it. We have to run the query. So there you go. This is how we have to drop the view in a MySQL. So hey guys, this is all about in this question. Now let's move on to the next question. Explain inner join. In a single line, if you want to answer this question, then I will say that inner join gives you the matching records from the both the tables. Yes. Now here you can see that I have a three table over here. One is called as order table, then I have product table, then I have customer table. So if I apply a inner join on this table, that is order table, product table and customer table, then what kind of output I will get? Then you can see that, as I told you, in a single line we will get only the matching records from the both the tables. So here we have three tables, so here we will get only the matching records. So if I do inner join order table with the customer table on customer ID, then you can see that we have 1001, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we have the customer ID is 1, 5, 10, 9, 2, 2, right? So here we don't have 3 and 4, and here we don't have 10 and 9. So only the matching records will come up here into this inner join. So as you can see that the output is 1001, 5, 1, 2, 2, 2. Here we don't have any 1010 or 1009. Here we don't have any 1003, 1004. So as I told you, if you apply the inner join, it will give you the matching records from the both the tables. Now let me also show you the real-time example for inner join. So for that, let me just go to the PHP MyAdmin over here, and here you can see that we have two tables over here. That is, one is the property listing table where we have listing ID as a primary key, then we have property name, then we have location ID. Now this location ID is a foreign key for this table, that is this location table. Here we have three values over here. You can see that 1 for India, 2 for Australia, and 5 for Nepal. And here you can see the records also. Here we don't have any entry for fifth record here. Okay, that is for Nepal. So it means that if we do the inner join, then definitely we will get only the matching records. So what I will do, so let me just write the inner join query over here. So let me just say copy paste. So here you can see that here we are displaying the property name, location ID, location name. From the property listing table, inner join on location on this ID, that is the foreign key and the primary key ID. So if I run this, so there you go, you can see that we didn't got a Nepal here. Okay, rest everything we have appeared over here. Okay, so this is what inner join do. It gives you only the matching records from the both the table. I hope you understand this question. Now let's move on to the next question. Explain left join. So when we apply the left join to join the two tables, then the output what we get is that we get all the records from the left hand side table and we get only the matching records from the right hand side table. So yes, so here we have the two tables, that is a property listing table, then we have the location table. Now what I will do, let me write the query over here. So here let me just copy paste the old query. So here instead of the inner join, here I will do left join, and here you can see that my left hand side table is the property listing and my right hand side table is the location. Now if I show you the records of the property listing here, the first you can see that we have India, 1 for India, 2 for Australia, and 5 for Nepal. And here in the property listing table we have the location ID is 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 19. The 19 is not matching with the right hand side table, but still it will appear as a output. Why? Because left join displays all the records from the left hand side table and it only displays the matching records from the right hand side table. Means 5 will be ignored, rest 1 and 2 will be matching, so it will appear in the output. Rest this 19 will also get appear because we are using the left join. So what I will do, let me just run this query and show you the output. So there you go, you can see that we get all the records from the left hand side and we got all the matching records from the right hand side table. So this is what the left join do when we apply in the query. I hope you understand this part. Now let's move on to the next question. Explain right join. The vice versa of the left join is called as right join. Means all the records from the right hand side table will get displayed and only the matching records from the left hand side table will get displayed. So for example, I am going to keep the property listing table as my left hand side table and the location table as my right hand side table. So it means that all the records from this table will get appear and only the matching records from this table will get appear. It means that the fifth record will get ignored. Why? Because this 19 is not present here in this location table. So what I will do, let me run this query and show you the output. So there you go. You can see that my right hand side table is the location and my left hand side table is property listing. So let me just run this query. So there you go, you can see that all the records from the right hand side table has been appeared, that is the Nepal, India, Australia, and only the matching records from the left hand side table has been appeared over here. Rest is null, you can see that, because there is no matching record for Nepal here. That's why we have the null values over here from the right hand side table. So this is all about the right join. I hope you understand this question. Now let's move on to the next question. Explain cross join. As a DB expert, I have implemented this cross join very rarely in my programs. But from an interview perspective, you can expect this question anytime on your table. So with respect to the interview, this question is very important. So go prepared for this question. Now let's understand how to answer this question. MySQL cross join produces the result set from the number of rows from the first table multiplied with the number of rows from the second table. So what I mean by that? So here you can see that we have a table 1 and table 2. So the number of rows multiplied means the first row will be multiplied with this also, and similarly second row will also get multiplied from this and from this. So it produces the result set something like this, and this type of result set is also known as Cartesian product. Yes. And this cross join can be implemented with on statement or without on statement. So when you write a SQL query, there how we give the on statement for inner join, left join, right join, for this cross join there is no compulsion. It is optional to use the on statement or without the on statement. You can go with the cross join. Okay, so this is all about the cross join. Now let's see some real-time example of a cross join also. So for that, let's go to our phpMyAdmin. So let me just show you that. So here you can see that we have two tables. One is the course table, one is the student table. So what I want that every student should go for all these courses. So for that, what I will do, I will go and write the cross join here. Means I want that all this each student should opt for all these courses. So let me write the cross join statement over here. So here I will say cross join the student. Yes, there you go, we are done. So what I will do, let me just run this. So there you go, you can see that Hari is opted for science, Hari is opted for physics, Hari is opted for mathematics, Hari is opted for biology. You can see that each row is got multiplied with the each row of the other table, science, physics, mathematics, biology, as you can see here, right? So this is how the result of this query has been generated. A generated result set is also known as Cartesian product. So hey guys, this is all about in this question. Now let's move on to the next question. Let's understand the difference between union and union all. As an interviewer, I have seen many developers fails to answer this question. They have used and implemented union and union all many times in their project, but somehow they fails to answer this question with the exact difference. So that's why I always request everyone, please go prepared for an interview. Okay, so now let me answer this question with the exact difference. Union and union all, they both help us to combine the two select statements, as you can see in the screen. So we have the two select statements over here, one is this and one is this one, and if we apply the union and union all, this union and union all help us to combine the both select statements into the single result set. That's what the job of union and union all. But the condition is that both tables must have the same number of columns with the same data type. Then only they can produce the proper result set. Now, if we talk about the exact difference between a union and union all, it is only the one difference only. That is, union does not displays the duplicate values, it only displays the distinct values, whereas union all displays all values including duplicates also. This is the only difference between union and union all. Rest, there is no difference between union and union all. Now let's go and see a simple example on union and union all. So for that, let me go to my phpMyAdmin over here, and here you can see that we have two tables. That is, one is the product table, you can see that, and another one is a product 2 table. Okay, so here we have some products and here also we have some products. So let me just show you that. That is, you can see that here, but purposely I have added a duplicate value over here. As you can see, the third record mobile, and here also in the third record we have added the mobile with the same product cost. You can see that. Okay, now what I will do, first I am going to write the union statement over here. So let me write it over here. So select star from product union, then select star from product 2. So there you go, we are done. Now let me run this statement. So there you go. So as you can see that the moment we applied the union for both the select queries, it combined both the select queries result set into the single result set. And as we have spoken earlier that union does not displays the duplicate values, it only displays the distinct values. So as you can see that our result set displayed only one mobile over here as a third record, as you can see here, right, with the same product cost. So this is the only difference between union and union all. For now what I will do, let me go here and again change this to union all. Now you will find a duplicate values for mobile here. So let me just show you that. So let me run it. So this will also combines both the select queries result set into the single result set, but it displays the duplicate values. As you can see that mobile here also and mobile here also. So hey guys, this is the only difference between union and union all. I hope you understand this difference. Now hey guys, let's move on to the next question. Explain MySQL alias. MySQL aliases gives the temporary name or a nickname to the table or a column. These aliases are very useful when writing the complex join like inner join, left join, right join and so on, or long queries like a subqueries, or you write some kind of a complex long queries. So they makes the long queries look shorter. So when you use the aliases, it makes the long queries look shorter because there you can give the table name as a nickname, some name you can give some kind of a short name, and that short name you can use further in the query for writing the long queries. Thus it makes the long queries look shorter, and it gives the column name or a table name with a more readable name. So sometimes what happens, due to the deadline, developers tend to give some weird names to the tables like table A, table 1, table 2. So when writing the proper joins or writing some long queries, there you can give some proper readable name with the help of aliases. Okay, so this is the use of aliases. Now hey guys, let's see a simple example on aliases. So for that I'm going to write a simple inner join where I'm going to make a join on this location ID with the parent table of location table. You can see that here. So what I will do, let me go here, and here I'm going to write the inner join. So first I'm going to give aliases. So for that, let me go here. I will give alias name as P1 or P. Okay, so inner join, I have given the shorter name here, on location as L. Okay, so there you go. On, so here instead of using the complete table name, here I will use P directly. Dot, there you go. You can see that I am able to access all the column names using the alias name also. So I will say equal to L dot ID. That's it, we are done. So now let me run this query. So let's see the output. So there you go, you can see that we got the perfect output with the use of alias name also. Now the query looks very shorter, you can see that, right? So this is the use of aliases. So now let's move on to the next question. Explain MySQL subquery. A very important interview question. Now let's understand how to answer this question. A query inside a query or a nested query is called as subquery. A outer query is called as a main query or a parent query, and a inside query is known as a child query or an inner query. Subqueries can be used with the select, insert, update and delete statements along with the operators like in operator, between operator, equal to sign, greater the sign, less than sign, and so on. The main reason we use the subqueries because a subquery returns the data that will be used in the main query as a condition to further restrict the data to be retrieved. So for example, here we have a table called property listing, and I want to search the property based on the location name. But in this table we have the location ID over here as a foreign key ID for the parent table as location table, and in this table we have the location names as you can see here, and I want to search the property for India and Nepal as a location name. Okay, so for that definitely I have to write the subquery. Okay, so what I will do, I will go here, let me click on this SQL tab. So there you go, and now what I will do, let me write a subquery here where location ID in. Now here I am going to write the subquery. So inside this bracket, so I will say select ID from a location where the location name is India, comma Nepal, right? So there you go, we are done now. So now let me run the query here. Now this is called as subquery, or it is also called as nested query, a query inside a query, you can see that. So there you go, you can see the output now. So there you go, you can see. So 1 for India and 5 for Nepal, you can see that 1 for India and 5 for Nepal. So here we got the properties based in India and Nepal. So hey guys, this is how you have to write the subqueries, and this is how you have to explain your answer to an interviewer. Now let's move on to the next question. Let's understand the differences between a blob data type and a text data type. So when we go to our MySQL data types, we have one data type called a text data type, and another one we have a blob data type as you can see here. Associated with the blob data type, we have the variants depending on the sizes like a tiny blob, medium blob and long blob. Similarly for the text also, we have tiny text, text, medium text and long text. Okay. So blob stands for binary large objects. As its name says, it can be used for storing the binary data. Means here we can store the pictures, videos, sounds and files, programs, etc. Whereas if we want to store the large amount of string, then simply we can go with the text or long text or medium text. Okay. So blob does not have a character set, whereas text has a character set. So for example, if I say browse over here, I will say cancel. Let's go here. Here you can see that in my structure I have created two columns over here with the blob data type and with the text data type, and here you can see that in the collation here we don't find anything, means blob does not have the character set, whereas text type is having a character set. Default character set is the Latin one, as you can see that in the PHP MyAdmin, right? So these are the some of the differences between blob data type and the text data type. I hope you understand this question. Now hey guys, let's move on to the next question. What is the difference between char and varchar? Guys, this is again a very important interview question. I have seen many times this question has been appeared. So I request you guys that don't miss this question. Go prepared well for this question also. Now let's understand how to answer this question. From an interview perspective, always start like this. Char is of a fixed length, whereas varchar is a variable length. Means what? If your char length is 3, so for example here my char length is 3, you can see here, and I have stored 2 character values, then also char will take the fixed length by adding the blank spaces or white spaces to the remaining spaces. Yes, so you cannot add more than 3 characters, but if you add less than 3 characters also, then also char will take the fixed length only, that is 3. On the other side, varchar is a flexible. Depending on the data, it changes its size. So for example, let's run the query here, where we are going to check the length of the varchar and the length of char. Here you can see that. Okay, so here we are checking the length by using the length here. Okay, so now let me run this query. So there you go. As I told you, that is varchar is flexible. Depending on the data, it changes its size, whereas here it shows you 2 here, but internally it is 3 only, because char automatically adds the white spaces or the blank spaces, but while showing you the output it will show you 2 here, but internally it is 3 only. Okay, so the exact difference between the char and varchar is that char is of fixed length, whereas varchar is of a variable length. Okay, so this is how you have to answer this question. I hope you understand this question. Now let's go to the next question. Let's understand the differences between InnoDB and MyISAM. InnoDB and MyISAM are MySQL's most popular database storage engines. They are widely used by the MySQL developers. They both have their own advantages and also the disadvantages in terms of storage and performance. Yes. Now, with respect to the interview's perspective, again this is a very important interview question. So, don't miss this question. Now, hey guys, let's understand how to answer this question. So here you can see that we have listed out the differences between both InnoDB and MyISAM. Let's understand the differences one by one. So, the current version of MySQL is 8.0 and the default storage engine of MySQL 8.0 is InnoDB. So as you can see here, right? Prior to MySQL 5.5, MyISAM was the default storage engine for MySQL. InnoDB supports ACID compliant, whereas MyISAM does not support ACID compliant. ACID compliant means atomicity, consistency, isolation and durability. So InnoDB supports ACID and MyISAM does not support ACID. And InnoDB also supports the foreign key relationship support, whereas MyISAM does not support any relationship constraints. Yes. InnoDB also supports the transaction features like rollback and commit, whereas MyISAM does not support any transaction features. Hence, they offer table level locking features, whereas InnoDB offers row level locking support. Yes. So here in the InnoDB there is no full text search, hence we don't have any full text indexes also. But MyISAM supports full text search, hence here we have full text indexes also. So hey guys, this is what the difference is between InnoDB and MyISAM. I hope you understand this question. Now let's move on to the next question. What are common MySQL commands? Yes, I agree that this is a very basic question, but from an fresher's interview perspective, this is a very important interview question. So freshers, those who are looking to pursue their job in DBA space, definitely you should look for this question. So here are the common MySQL commands like select, insert, update, delete, create table, delete table, drop database, create database. All these are common MySQL commands. Definitely you can tell all this, and this is how you have to answer this question. So simple, right? Now let's move on to the next question. What are aggregate functions in MySQL? So we have like sum, average, min, max, count. All these are aggregate functions in MySQL. Now let's see a simple example for a sum, one of the aggregate function of MySQL. So for that, let's go to the phpMyAdmin, and here you can see that we have a product cost. So if I want to sum up this product cost, then what I will do, I will go here, I will say to my query. So there you go, I will say select sum of product cost as total cost from product, right? So we're done now. Let's run this. And there you go, we got the total cost of all the products in the table. So this is the one of the example for one of the aggregate function of MySQL, that is sum. So hey guys, this is how you have to answer this question. Okay. So hey, congratulations for completing this 1 hour of this video. And in case if you have any doubt or any query, you can post your doubt or query in the below comment section of this video. Personally, I am going to answer all your doubts. And stay with me, there will be more upcoming videos, part 2, part 3, where we will focus some more important questions on MySQL. So thank you very much and happy job hunting.